All right, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible rules that basically stop our digital world from completely falling apart. It's something called data governance, and it's this hidden system that makes sure the information we use every single day is actually safe and accurate. And to really get why this is so important, we're going to start with two pretty spectacular failures.
Okay, I know, it sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, right? But the answer actually shines a huge spotlight on a critical weakness in some of our most advanced systems. Both of these things were at the heart of massive, massive failures. And believe it or not, the reason why is surprisingly simple.
So on one hand, you have the total loss of a multi-million-dollar spacecraft, just gone. And on the other, a really serious breach of sensitive military police data. We're talking two completely different worlds, two totally disastrous outcomes, but both are linked by the same hidden problem.
Now, here's the thing you have to understand. These disasters, they weren't caused by some brilliant hacker or a complex act of sabotage. Nope. They happened because of simple, totally preventable mistakes in how data was being handled. $327.6 million. That's how much NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter mission cost. A mission that didn't end with a bang, but more like a poof in the Martian atmosphere. A complete and total financial write-off. The whole thing failed because of a basic translation error. Seriously, one engineering team at Lockheed Martin was using imperial units, pounds of force, while the team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab was expecting metric units, newtons. That tiny little oversight, that small inconsistency in the data, sent the orbiter on a collision course. It just burned up instead of ever making it into orbit. And then we have this story. A security researcher just buys a used police body cam online, and what does he find? It's still loaded with unencrypted video of military police officers on the job. The data was never, ever wiped before the device was sold. Just an incredible failure of security and privacy. So these two disasters are perfect examples of why you need some kind of system of control, and that is exactly where data governance comes in. You can think of it as the framework, the rules and practices that are designed to prevent exactly this kind of chaos by treating data like the valuable thing it is. So, the official definition is right here, but really, data governance is just the official playbook for an organization's data. It sets the rules, it says who's responsible for what, and it makes sure that the data is high quality and has integrity. It's the top-level strategy that says, okay, people, this is how we're going to handle our data safely and effectively. And it's really important not to mix this up with data management. Here, think of it this way. Data governance is the architect who draws up the blueprints for a skyscraper. Data management, that's the construction crew that actually shows up every day and builds it according to those plans. One sets the strategy, the other makes it happen. That body cam mess, for example, that was a failure in data management. Specifically, a complete breakdown in the data disposal process. A proper governance strategy would have had a strict, mandatory policy for wiping devices clean before they ever left the building. Data has a life, just like anything else. It gets planned, then it's created, stored, shared, and eventually it needs to be disposed of. The body cam incident happened because that last, absolutely critical step, dispose, was just skipped. Good governance means having clear rules for every single stage of this journey. So, having a strategy is great, but how you actually apply it day to day, especially in a huge organization? Well, the answer is a framework, a structured, repeatable process that's specifically designed to manage risk. One of the best ones out there, kind of the gold standard, is the Risk Management Framework, or RMF. It was developed by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST. And it's basically a detailed guide for building security and privacy into a system from the very beginning and then managing it for its entire life. The RMF really has four main goals. And it's not just about stopping hackers. It's about protecting data, for sure, but also actively building in privacy protections, managing risks from your suppliers, like making sure you don't get counterfeit parts, and ultimately just building systems you can actually trust.
The RMF isn't just some document you read once. It's a living process. It's a continuous cycle of 7 steps, and it's designed to make sure security is never an afterthought, but just a constant state of being. This cycle really covers everything from start to finish. It all begins with preparation, getting the whole organization ready. Then you categorize your systems based on how risky they are. Not all data is created equal, right? From there, you select and implement the security controls that make sense. Then you have to assess them to make sure they're actually working. Only then can a system be formally authorized to go live. And maybe the most important part, the loop closes with continuous monitoring because the risks are always changing.
So we've talked about spaceships, body cams, frameworks, life cycles, all this stuff. But what does any of this have to do with you and your daily life? Well, it turns out the impact is actually huge.
Good data governance is what keeps your personal information from becoming the next big headline in a data breach. It's what makes sure your banking app actually works and that government services you need are reliable. It builds trust. It even protects you from shady parts in the supply chain of the technology you use. It is the hidden machinery that makes our entire digital world work.
Ultimately, even though we don't see it, there are these incredibly complex systems and a lot of dedicated people working behind the scenes to govern the journey of our data. And that leaves us with one final thought. In a world where we create new data with every single click, what's our role in all this? And what should we be demanding from the people who hold it?